and controversial topics that may be offensive to some audiences. Listener discretion is advised.
Radio from the heart of America now.
Welcome back. We're at the top of the second hour of Freedom Friday with Carl Gallups, the Oval Office of Gulf Coast Talk Radio.
All right, welcome back. Welcome back, Gulf Coast. Welcome back, America. Welcome back, Mike Shoesmith, Executive Editor, PNN News and Ministry Network on the Internet and all over the world. And he's in the studio today.
I am really looking forward to our next guest. He's going to enlighten us on all this pedophagy, tomfoolery that kind of reminds me of the whole Scopes monkey trial business from the 20s, doesn't it?
It really, really does. Pedophagy and tomfoolery. Now, did you make those words up? Let's trademark them.
Right now.
Yeah, right now.
I mean,
I've never heard those before, so they did not exist until you just said them. Oh, my gosh. That's a little inside joke, folks. If you were listening to the first hour, you know what we're talking about. If you weren't, you'll have to get the podcast because we don't have time to go back into that.
Don't.
But we're at the top of the second hour, folks. Thank you for joining us. This is why you listen. We're live in the studios, Freedom Friday, 1330 AM, 99.1 FM here on the Gulf Coast Talk Radio. And, of course, this is the Oval Office of Gulf Coast Talk Radio, Freedom Friday. Mallory Bardwell, our world-famous producer, in the house, making everything work. Mike Shoesmith live. And now we're going to bring on Mike Zullo. He will be in the house with us by phone, the magic of tin cans and string. Telephone. And Mike Zullo, listen, first of all, let's just make sure we have a good connection, and then I'm going to introduce you. Mike, are you there, and can we hear you, man?
Carl, I can barely hear you, but I can hear you.
Okay, all right. Well, maybe you can tell us if it gets better, and Mallory's starting to adjust everything over there. We'll see what we can do. But in the meantime, Mike, listen, let me just tell folks, Mike Zullo, most of our audience knows you, Mike, but for those that are kind of new to the show and joining in on this or not really up on all the whole Obama fraud case, but Mike Zullo was the lead investigator appointed by Sheriff Joe Arpaio, Maricopa County Sheriff's Office Sheriff, for 6 terms. Prior to that, 30-something years in federal law enforcement, DEA, district supervisor, stationed in the Middle East, stationed in the Western District of the United States, stationed in Mexico, 50-year lawman, 4th largest sheriff's office in the nation. They open a criminal forensic investigation 5 years into the Obama birth certificate that was posted on the White House, and through a legal process, all of that was done, and it has now been proven and has been the subject of 3 press conferences by which the mainstream media were attended but would not report on it because it blew them away. Bottom line is they've never reported on the details and facts of the 3rd press conference, which is an absolute slam dunk proving and then signed off on by 2 international document examination companies, plus the forensics that we have, plus new stuff that Zullo has garnered over the years, and the media has not reported on 1 ounce of it because it is a slam dunk proving that that birth certificate was built from the ground up, which is about 5 federal crimes. In the meantime, I asked Mike to come on today because for those of you that have been keeping up with this thinking, well, this is over, it's dead, it's not going anywhere, Mike and I can't swear to where it is going or where it will, by gosh, wind up, but we can swear to you that very important people know, and I'll let Mike tell you that, and there are very important people still very interested in this. But, of course, the swamp has to be drained, the deep state has to be neutered, and things have to be put in place. But this thing is far from gone away at this point. Would you agree with that, Mike, before we go any further?
Yeah, Carl, I absolutely agree with that. And just to add a little bit, and obviously we have to be as cryptic as we can, but, you know, I could assure your listeners that very recently, very, very high-level White House officials have had a cursory briefing of the information that we garnered about the certificate.
Yeah.
And I can tell you that this issue, even though it is being paraded around ad nauseum by the left on certain far left-leaning news channels or in Michelle Obama's books or Dan Pfeiffer's books as being a fabrication dreamt up by the far right, this topic is still on the radar.
Oh, yeah.
For people that matter in the United States government.
Yeah.
And I think I was on your show not too far back, And I had received information, current information, now that there's been a changing of the guard, if you will, that it was an open secret, that this document was not a factual document, it was not real, and this open secret was well known in the intelligence communities. And as far as I am to understand, it was also known that he was not born in the United States of America. Now, that's not coming from me. That's not coming from Joseph Arpaio. That's coming from people that are in the know, that are in three-letter agencies, that this facade has been going on for a very, very long time.
Yeah, and people need to know that you're not just dealing in rumors or internet gossip. You have made several trips to Washington, D.C. You have spoken to several representatives of three-letter agencies over the years. You've been to Hawaii and back. You've been all over the nation. You've interviewed key players. You've had a whistleblower come from the CIA and the FBI. You've garnered all kinds of hard copy information showing some of what you're saying, plus the spying that was done, and plus the potential involvement of three-letter agencies in the potential manufacturing or somehow jiggy-jagging with that document. You've got all of that, plus so much more that you've never revealed. The stuff you have revealed has been earth-shattering, but there's also a bunch of stuff that you've never revealed that's just waiting for the proper hearing. And so now along comes Michelle Obama pushing a book, but in the book she has written, and now she has said it publicly, that she would never forgive Donald Trump for pushing the birther conspiracy, putting her family at risk, and on and on and on ad nauseum with the hypocrisy. And you and I are screaming in the phone at each other, wait a minute. It was Obama's own publishers for over a decade that indicated in his biography, born in Kenya, raised in Hawaii, his own publishers. And then during the first election in 2008, it was Hillary Clinton's campaign, who they have now admitted, Mike Zullo, that they floated the whole birther conspiracy and claimed to have information to prove that he wasn't eligible to run. The Hillary Clinton campaign. So Trump did not float or push the birther conspiracy. As a matter of fact, he did something else monumental. Mike, tell us about all that.
Well, Donald Trump is responsible for having the, quote, birth certificate, if you can really call it that, materialize or manifest.
Yeah.
He pushed that. He pushed that issue. He made that thing come to the forefront. Along the same time that Jerry Corsi was releasing a book on the birth certificate issue. So they had to get in front of that. And Michelle Obama, to make the statements that she's making, and let's just step back. Michelle Obama in 2012 referred to the president's home country as Kenya.
She sure did.
She said that in a speech she was given.
Yep.
It's quoted. She referred to his home country. Now, if you look up what the definition of home country is, the definition of home country is the country in which a person was born and usually raised, regardless of the present country of residency and or citizenship.
Yeah.
Now, she used those words. Nobody else did.
That's right.
You have Obama in 2015 said he visited Kenya as the first sitting American president to come from Kenya.
He did.
Now, I don't know about you, Carl. I mean, I have Italian ancestry. I don't say I'm from Italy.
Yeah.
I don't say Italy is my home country.
Yeah.
So these people keep making comments like this, and they wonder why the issue just never goes away.
And his
well,
own...
I'll tell you why it never goes away. It's because it goes back to Nazi propaganda by the Minister of Propaganda for Adolf Hitler, Joseph Goebbels. And I'm going to read you this. This is his quote. If you tell a lie big enough and keep repeating it, people will eventually come to believe it. The lie can be maintained only for such a time as the state can shield the people from the political, economic, and or military consequences of the lie. It thus becomes vitally important for the state to use all of its powers to repress dissent For the truth is the mortal enemy of the lie, and thus by extension, the truth is the greatest enemy of the state.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And
now, let that sink in.
Yeah.
Because that is exactly what happened with this whole birth certificate issue.
Yeah.
Donald Trump forced it out. They thought they had that thing put in the box. They never counted on Joe Arpaio to pick up the ball, look into the document, who, by the way, looked into the document in the beginning and never thought there was ever going to be anything wrong with it.
He was literally trying to clear it.
This type of lie is so monumental that people can't believe that this would happen.
Yeah.
And lo and behold, they have a big problem now because of Joe Arpaio.
Yep. Yep.
After the investigation that was done, the forensics that were done, we can prove beyond any reasonable doubt that the document is a construction.
Yep.
The American people have never, ever, ever seen an authentic Hawaii birth certificate of one Barack Hussein Obama.
Yep.
They've never seen it. So what do they have to do? They have to perpetuate this lie. They have to keep ridiculing you, put down, repress all dissent, because the truth is the enemy of the lie. This birth certificate holds such dire consequences to that man and that presidency that at all costs they will do anything, anything to never let that truth come out.
And I want our listeners to remember that man had his finger on the red button for 8 years. He controlled our nuclear arsenal. He controlled our military. He controlled our borders, and he controlled our economy. And he was doing it on a fake document that was constructed from the ground up. That's the result of a 5-year forensic investigation with 2 international digital one's a digital document examiner, one's a document examiner. They both have supplied information, plus more stuff was found out even after that. And again, so many things that Mike knows that he's never even brought forward. The stuff he has brought forward has just been mind-boggling and unbelievable. In fact, Mike, you said a couple of years ago, and then you said it again about 6 months ago, you said, watch, keep your eyes on Brennan, keep your eyes on the CIA. Everything will fall at his footsteps. And then just a few weeks ago, that started to unfold, not on the birth certificate, but many, many other issues, media starting to report that it's starting to all land at Brennan's feet. And you had already said that some years before.
Well, Carl, you have to just think about it. What these people were capable of doing, do you think for 1 minute they are afraid to manufacture a birth certificate?
I know. That's the thing.
If you go back to the very beginning of Obama's presidency, there was an individual who was arrested in Washington, D.C. His apartment was raided. I believe he was their IT chief. He was making birth certificates in his apartment. Wow. Phony birth certificates in his apartment.
Unbelievable. Unbelievable. Mike, I hear the music. We're going to have to take a quick time out. When we come back, we're going to continue because you've got more things to say, more things to reveal, and we've got more perspective to give on this. And then I want him to repeat again how he started this in case you missed it. That very, 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 very high-ranking people within the White House know the details of this, and I'll let Mike tell more about that, what he can reveal and what he can't. But this thing has not gone away, folks. This is huge, and it's getting bigger, whether you know it or not. We'll be right back, and this is why you listen to Freedom Friday. I guarantee you're not going to hear this anywhere else today. All right, welcome back, Gulf Coast. Welcome back, America. Welcome back, world, and Mike Zullo. Welcome back, Mike Zullo. Hey, listen, Mike, let's do this. I want you to update our folks as quickly as you can about Jerome Corsi, Dr. Jerome Corsi, who's a friend of mine, friend of yours, and acquaintance. And of course, he wrote "Where's Obama's Birth Certificate" and all that. But in the meantime, he's a laser target of the Mueller investigation, and you might have some insight or perspective on that. So share that. And then at the bottom of the hour, Mike, when we come back from the bottom of the hour break, why don't we open up the phone lines and let people call up and ask you questions? Is that okay?
Yeah, that'd be fine, Carl.
Okay, fantastic. So, folks, you kind of get ready. 850 is the area code, 623-1330, 623-1330, 850-623-1330. All right, we're on 1330 AM and 99.1 FM, so it's easy to remember. 623-1330, 850. At the bottom of the hour, you can call in and talk to Mike. Now, we're going to give you what we're going to call a 1-minute blast out, and that is for 1 minute, we're just going to let you say and ask the questions you want to say and ask, and then we'll put you on hold or hang up or whatever, and then Mike will respond. But that way we can get a lot of folks in that can ask questions and Mike can answer them. All right, that'll be at the bottom of the hour, which is coming up very shortly. All right, Mike, talk to us a little bit about Corsi and the Mueller investigation. A lot of people have been keeping up with that.
Well, if we go back to the beginning of the birth certificate investigation, Jerome Corsi, because he was writing that book, Where's the Birth Certificate, he became our initial source of a lot of information with dealing with the certificate, which we took that information and then we built upon it. Jerry and I worked closely together for well over a year, back around 2012, if my memory serves, and we remained friends since. Well, Jerry has gotten caught up in the Mueller probe, and apparently what this stems from is his relationship with Roger Stone, and that Jerry had publicized at one point in time some information regarding the Podesta emails, that the Podesta emails were about to drop.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't know how elaborate he got into that, but that was done some time back, and apparently that caught the attention of the Mueller team. And they brought Jerry in, and from my understanding, they interrogated him for 40 hours. Now, keep in mind that when you talk to federal investigators, you always run the risk of the perjury trap. And the perjury trap is, I may be telling you the absolute truth, but you have information contrary to what I'm saying, and it's up to that investigator to make a determination whether he believes you or the other information. If he chooses to believe the other information that's in contradiction to what you're telling him, they will charge you. It's a strong-arm tactic with perjury or lying to investigators. It's a felony and carries prison time. That's what happened to Papadopoulos, mm-hmm. and that's also what happened to a number of other people that they couldn't get anything else on, so they went after them for lying, even though they may not have been lying. That being said, what apparently happened with Jerry is they had information from his computers and his telephones, about 2 years' worth, put a big binder in front of him, but wouldn't let him examine it, and asked him questions purportedly based on information contained in there. After all this time, and realize Jerry's 72 years old, so after all these hours going by, apparently Jerry may not have answered a question or two the way that they were comfortable with. They were also pressing him on who his connection was to WikiLeaks, because they believed that Jerry had a connection to Julian Assange. Jerry does not have that connection. He doesn't know. He scoured through 2 years' worth of phone records that they did provide to him, and he couldn't even tell you who some of the people are. I can tell you that working with Jerry Corsi, Jerry has a pretty unique ability of getting bits and pieces of information and then coming up with a scenario that he writes about. And 95% of the time, he's pretty accurate in his predictions. Mm-hmm. And I'm not certain because I don't know all the intricacies, but as far as this Podesta email drop, Jerry Corsi wasn't the only person talking about this at the time. But as fate would have it, they are looking to squeeze Jerry against Roger Stone, who I believe is their real target. Jerry can't provide them what information that they want from him, so now they're going to indict him on, quote, the perjury trap. And, at this point, you have a journalist who has a pretty renowned reputation for being hard right. If you remember, he authored that Swift Boat book that took out John Kerry's presidency. Yes. He authored the books about Obama and Obama Nation, Obama's birth certificate. Right. He also did work against the Clinton Foundation and Hillary and Bill Clinton. I mean, this is political payback, and it's getting pretty evident that that's what this is all about. Jerry Corsi, as far as I understand, has no information that they're looking for, yet they are just looking to hang another scalp on the wall, and this is how they use it. Yeah. They use that weapon of perjury against people that really have no business even sitting in the chair that they're sitting in.
Right. Thank you. Wouldn't that perjury trap though fall apart in a trial? I mean, I understand how the trap works.
You know what? You would really think so. But here's the problem. They'll normally come to you with a plea deal.
Yeah.
So you plea out, because here's what you're looking at. Not only are you looking at a trial, first of all, it's a trial in Washington, D.C.
Right.
So it's a Washington, D.C. jury. That doesn't bode well if you're a Republican. Number two, you have to fit the bill for this. Hundreds of thousands of dollars in legal defense. And if you are found guilty, it's a felony.
Yeah.
And you go to prison.
Yeah. Yeah.
Whether it's 6 days or 6 years.
All right.
So the cost to endure one of these things, with the ultimate decision being left in the fate of a jury, it makes it a pretty tough choice as to what to do.
Yeah.
And people get roped into just taking the plea.
Yeah,
What
I
is
can
the
see where
plea
that
do?
would happen. Yeah, I'm sorry. We're going to have to take a time out. I can see where that would happen, Mike, and that's a horrible mess to be in. We're going to take this time out, Mike. We're going to come back at the bottom of the hour. We're going to open up the phone lines, and in between phone calls, you and I will keep discussing this and other things that you know. We'll be back in just a few moments, folks. Don't go anywhere. Mike Zullo is in the house. Number you can call in, do a 1-minute sound off with Mike Zullo. So do we have Mike Zullo on the line? Okay, Mike, are you there?
I'm on, Carl.
Okay, good deal. And we've got a caller up by the name of Jerry. Jerry, you've got 1 minute to sound off. First of all, thank you for listening to Freedom Friday. Thank you for desiring to make a statement or ask a question. You've got 1 minute, and then Mike will respond. Go ahead, Jerry.
Yeah, Gary Wilmot. Mike, we talked a few months ago on the phone. I want to thank you for keeping this issue in the forefront, and Carl for giving Mike the venue or the means to get the word out. My question, well, first of all, comment. You're right. Truth is the enemy of the Obama crime.
Okay, Mike Zullo, you go ahead. Do you have any clue where he was going with that? And hopefully we can get him back on.
You know, I really don't. I have spoken to Gary in the past.
Okay.
I don't know what he was alluding to, though.
Okay. All right. Good deal. Well, maybe we can get him back on here in a few moments. So, Mallory, do we have somebody else on the phone now? Yeah, okay. Yeah, we've got Keith on the line now. So, Keith, listen, thank you for listening today, Keith. Thanks for calling in, and I'll do my best. I'm going to keep my fingers away from the buttons. I'll do my best not to.
Okay.
I'm sorry. If Gary's
I
listening.
appreciate that.
Oh, my gosh.
Well, good evening, everyone.
Okay, listen, you got 1 minute. I'm going to hush. You go ahead.
I don't even need a minute. It's just I've been following this whole story of the Clinton corruption and the Obama birth certificate for years. Okay, they ain't never going to jail. Nothing's ever going to be done. They are not the class of people who will be punished. The punishment only affects the people who don't have a lot of money in this country. And that's all I'm going to say.
All right. Thanks, Keith. It sure seems that way often. Mike, do you want to make some comments on that? A lot of people feel that way, by the way, Mike.
I would tend to agree with him, except the thing that I would keep my eye on now is this new democratically controlled Congress who is pledging through committees to drop 68 to 100 subpoenas on the administration. You know, they're not lame ducks that they have to just sit back and let that happen. They have an arm, they have multiple arms of the DOJ, the FBI, and the Senate to launch their own probes.
Yeah.
So I would watch and see how this battle develops, because what happens in an investigation, if an investigation is done, and it is done on the up and up, and done like a true investigation, it will take on a life of its own, and people will be indicted.
Yeah.
And I know that there are outside organizations, Judicial Watch is just got an order from a judge that Hillary Clinton has to testify in a deposition regarding her emails.
Yeah.
Now, that's a first.
Yeah. Yeah.
So I would just sit back and watch this unfold. I do agree with what the caller said. There are
Yes.
a different class of people. But you know what? There's a new sheriff in town now.
Yeah, that's what I was going to
So
say.
we're gonna sit back and watch it.
Yeah, we can't eliminate the Trump factor, because this is the dude that put his finger in Obama's chest for the birth certificate to be put up there, and now he is the POTUS. And if he goes in for another 4 years, well, he still has 2 years, but if he goes in 2020, then he's got another 4 years. So we've got time. Some things could happen here. We'll see. Hey, if it doesn't happen in the next 6 years, I think the caller's right. It will not happen, ever. What do you think, Mike Zullo?
I would agree. I mean, if I were betting on this, the safer bet is he gets reelected in 2020, and then he's got 4 years to do basically whatever he wants.
Yeah, I think so. Okay, let's take. Is Gary back on the line? Let's take Gary, and then Pete, you're up next. So you hang on, Gary. We'll go ahead with your 1 minute. I apologize for messing you up last time. You got 1 minute. Go.
Yeah, no problem, guys. Where I was going with it, Mike, was just, first of all, thank you guys for keeping this issue in the forefront. The truth is the enemy of the Obama lie. That's why this thing never goes away, because we have the facts and the truth on our side. My quick question to Mike is, we talked a couple months ago on the phone. We had a very nice conversation, and Mike, you alluded to the fact that you thought around October or November of this year that maybe we would be making some significant headway on this issue. Do you still feel this way? And that's about it. And
thank you,
keep
Gary.
up the work. Do not let this issue die, please.
We won't, Gary. Thank you so much. God bless you. All right, so Mike, go ahead.
I think what I was alluding to when I was speaking with Gary then was that was predicated on us retaining both houses of Congress, and obviously we did not do that.
Right.
So we have an issue there.
Right.
It's too early to see how any of that is going to affect anything. You know, right now the conventional wisdom would be, you know, sit on your hands and don't do anything. But again, you don't know what's going to transpire.
That's right. That's right.
With the Democrats going hog wild on investigations.
That's right. And we don't know what's going to happen with the Mueller thing. And you're right. There's so many variables here that could make this thing explode into the forefront, especially since very, very influential, powerful people in the White House know what you know, and they understand the gravity of it. And so, I mean, you're right. I mean, this thing could just explode into the forefront. So I'm gonna ask our believers out there to keep this thing covered in prayer. In the meantime, we're gonna keep going forward, and we're gonna keep you posted, our listeners, on everything that we can. All right, let's go to the phone lines. Pete, thank you for listening to Freedom Friday. Hold on just a moment. All right, Pete, are you there?
Hey, gentlemen, thank you for keeping this subject going. Bill Clinton got impeached, and he could have got fired, and he could have gone to jail or whatever, but instead our weird Senate just voted to censor him and put it in his record like shaking your finger, now don't you do that again. So it's very important that Rick Scott gets in, because it'll be offsetting penalties. Nothing will ever get done if we can't, the conservatives can't keep control, the Senate when it comes time to voting. And also, could you expound a little bit about the people that have known the Clintons back from attorney general to governor, president, worked with Hillary, Vince Foster, at least 122 people mysteriously passed away. Heck, I wouldn't say anything either, like that guy that broke in Washington, D.C. in broad daylight, broke the story.
Yeah. Okay. Well, anyway, that was his 1 minute. Thank you, Pete. Thanks for listening. Mike, do you want to comment on that, and then we'll keep moving forward while other people call?
Well, I can't address anything in detail regarding the Clintons, but what I can tell you as far as his analysis of, things not happening is in regard to, Bill Clinton's impeachment. The one thing I think has become glaring is Donald Trump has begun to taught Republicans, not rhinos, Republicans, how to fight.
Yeah.
And the biggest problem I've always seen with the Republican Party is they don't know how to fight.
Right.
They're like the guys that go to a gunfight and they bring baseball bats.
Right.
You're going to lose.
Right. Yeah.
And they seem to lose at every turn. They don't have that ruthless killer instinct that is pretty evident on the other side. I mean, the one thing you have to hand it to the Democratic Party is, boy, those guys know how to fight, and they know how to dig in.
Yeah.
Well, hopefully that's changing, because what's going to happen here, this is going to be a battle. It is a fight.
Right.
And if you want to get this stuff out there, if you want to get this stuff eventually adjudicated, they're going to have to fight. They're going to have to hunker down and fight hard.
No doubt. No doubt. All right, let's go back to the phone lines. Marshall, thank you for listening today, and thanks for calling in. You've got 1 minute. Go ahead and sound off, Marshall.
I'd just like to know, if Donald Trump declassifies those documents, will it help this case, and do you think that's going to happen?
All right, thanks for the call. Thanks for the question. Mike?
I do think that's going to happen. I think Donald Trump is going to declassify information. My understanding why he didn't do it earlier was and this is from a very credible source, was that Rod Rosenstein had counseled him that if he declassified these things before Mueller concluded his investigation, it could be looked at as obstruction. Mm-hmm. And the president backed away. Yeah. Not that he put it away, he just backed away from it. So I think he's keeping his powder dry, and he's going to see how certain things unfold. Yeah. And obviously, they don't want it declassified because all of them are guilty.
Yeah. And Mike,
so you have the investigators that are open to investigation the minute he does this.
Yeah. And Mike, listen, while we're waiting on another phone, we'll give you 1 minute to ask a question or sound off with Mike Zullo. While we're doing that, let me just get you to comment on this. You and I talk about this all the time offline, but isn't it amazing? All of these years later, Obama's out of office. Donald Trump is in office. We're moving forward. Here's the guy that kind of, got the birth certificate out there in the first place, the fake one. And the media can't shut up about it. The past Obama people, the guy that wrote the book, now Michelle Obama coming out with a book. What do they talk about? Birth certificate, birth certificate, birth certificate, the conspiracy, the birth. Well, if you're a real citizen and your birth certificate's for real and everybody else are nuts, why keep talking about it? Why write books about it? Why try to convince people of something that would take you 5 minutes to prove and would put to bed? They keep claiming that the birth certificate on the White House website put it to bed, yet they keep talking about it, Mike. They talk about it more than you and I do.
They do. They continually bring it up, and that just goes back to keep telling the lie. You've got to keep telling the lie. You don't want people to start waking up from the ether 2-3 years later going, that is a good question. They want that lie out there. They want to, villainize the President of the United States, anybody associated with that. The media is in their hip pocket with that. As a matter of fact, in Dan Pfeiffer's book, he dedicates a whole chapter to the whole birth certificate saga. I was gagging as I was reading it because it's nothing but a cover story. But one thing he says in there, Carl, and you and I were talking about this years ago, he attests that there was a media blackout regarding the birth certificate issue.
Yes,
he says it. Now, he was in the White House, the comms director. He says it in print in his book.
Yes.
So we weren't making that up.
Right.
There was a media blackout, and it had to be orchestrated at the highest level not to deal with the birth certificate, and that's what we came up against.
Yep. You guys did 3 official press conferences, the 4th largest sheriff's office in the nation, 50-year lawman, 3 one-hour official press conferences. Mainstream media showed up, but rather than reporting the facts of what you guys presented, they dared to question you as to what authority you had to even look into it. And that was about the only thing that they could say. But they have never reported the details. And we're going to have to take a time out.
Never reported the real details.
Let's do this. No. Let me take a time out, and then when we come back, I'll let you sound off on that and more. Plus, we'll take more phone calls. Folks, thanks for listening. Freedom Friday, Carl Gallup's Oval Office, Gulf Coast Talk Radio. We'll be right back. All right, Mike Zullo, are you on, man?
I am, Carl.
Okay, good. Listen, Mike Shoesmith, thanks for being in the house with us today from Canada. We still have a few moments, so you've got a little something you want to run by Mike Zullo about this birth certificate thing. Go ahead.
Well, Mike, I wasn't expecting to speak with you, and this is definitely an added honor and pleasure. I'm looking at an article from the New York Times from July of this year where they reported on Barack Obama's recent visit to Kenya, and they devoted an entire paragraph to the birth certificate in the New York Times. And they actually hyperlinked the words birth certificate. So I clicked on the hyperlink, and it took me straight to the archived PDF of the arts and crafts project that they put up on the website there. And so then I went back to 2015 when the New York Times reported on his trip back then. And they write in this one sentence, they sum it up. They say, Kenyans were excited about the arrival of a major world figure they consider their own. And what Keith said earlier about they'll never go to jail. I'm telling you, Mike, millions of Americans actually believe that nothing will happen to Obama. I say that it's time to either force him to answer for this fraud or put him on the first thing smoking and send him back to the people who want him so badly?
Well, Mike, it's really good to talk to you. You know, brother, this is the kind of stuff that just makes my head explode, because it's another reinforcement of the lie. Keep showing the PDF file, and the gullible public will think that's his birth certificate, and everything is good. And that's what's been going on. Yeah. The American people, look, when you have a news blackout to the magnitude that we did, and I remember Carl and I talking about this, within 24 hours of the release of the PDF file, no major news network was talking about this issue anymore.
Yeah, yeah.
They didn't want to talk about it. Yeah. They didn't want it brought up, and they didn't want it challenged.
Yeah.
So what do you get in society? Now, people aren't as diligent as you are, but you click the link, you see the birth certificate, oh, it's all good.
Yeah.
And you go about your business.
That's right. And that's the
plan. And that's all they are trying to accomplish.
That's it.
And I agree. So many people think nothing will ever happen. And the only real answer I have to say about that is God is still on the throne.
Yeah. No, absolutely.
And whatever is going to happen with this, whatever the timing is going to happen with this, it's out of everybody's control but
that's
his.
Right. It's in his hands.
And I think that's just the way I have to look at it.
Yeah.
From this point forward.
Yeah.
We have never stopped. We have never stopped pursuing it. We stand on the investigational findings.
Yep.
Matter of fact, our findings are so strong, not one major news agency tried to challenge us in our last press conference.
And think of this, Mike. Not only did they not challenge you, but they've never reported one iota, one jot and tittle of the information you have. It's so strong. And they've never presented any kind of a legal counter-investigation or any kind of a legal counter-argument or counter-case. They just ignore it, and they go around with their fingers in their ears screaming at everybody saying that you're a liar and that they know the truth. It's unbelievable. We've got another caller on the line, Jerry from New York. Thank you for listening today from New York, Jerry, and you've got 1 minute to sound off, so go ahead.
First, thank you, Carl. Thank you, Mike, for doing what you've done. You are a real American patriot, and Joe Arpaio as well. The other thing and the point I want to make is I've been saying this since day one, since the day that Trump got elected. If he does not expose this and many other things, Hillary and Brennan and all of this treason that's happened, that everything that he does from now to the end of the time, whether it's 2 years or it's 4 years or 8 years, none of it will matter because he will go away and the people that have done all this will come back. Because unless the American people are shown and exposed to what has been going on, he goes away and it'll be business as usual. And if it's one thing that he's failed at, as far as I'm concerned, it's in this regard. That FISA information should have been exposed prior to the election, and he allowed himself to be talked out of exposing it. And this is where he's fallen horribly short in my. He's got to get this information out, all of it.
Okay. Thank you so much, Jerry. Again, thanks for listening. Mike, you got about 2.5, 3 minutes, so you go ahead and close us out and say whatever you need to say.
Yeah, I appreciate the kind comments. And look, I tell you, I agree with what he's saying. The thing that I would try to implore that everyone keeps in the back of their mind, we don't know what the president knows as far as what is going on, what's coming down the pike, what kind of intelligence information he has. He has privy to information that we don't know anything about. The only thing I can tell you is has been represented to me is this issue has not gone away.
Yeah.
And that's all I can say.
Yeah.
That's all that I am privileged to say. So I would take that as a sign of encouragement. And I would again, just wait and let's see what begins to unfold. Because I have this sneaking suspicion that things are going to start to be exposed and things are going to be declassified. And you can't do a document dump on the American people. You have to put it out there slowly.
Yeah.
So let's just see what's happening. Give them the benefit of the doubt.
All right. Well, Mike, we got to get out of here, man. Thank you for giving us a whole hour today.
For thousands of years, mankind has debated how creation began. Ancient texts tell us the story, but today the real message behind the pivotal account of the Garden of Eden has been obfuscated and lost. That is, until now. World-renowned author Carl Gallups digs up the hidden truths from the book of Genesis to finally give back the knowledge that was lost to the world. Find out what really happened in the Garden of Eden, what Jesus taught about Eden on the cross, and how the conflict between Jesus and the gods of antiquity is about to erupt on planet Earth, fulfilling biblical prophecy. In the new book, Gods of Ground Zero, this explains everything.